Welcome to another edition of the End Zone along with TJ Eckert. I am Colby Daniels. Big weekend ahead. I know there's a lot of basketball happening, but the biggest news this week in the state of Oklahoma, TJ, has certainly got to be Oklahoma football and the GM position, right? This is a new thing in college football throughout the country. Pretty much every major program in college football has a GM. In fact, Bill Belichick and UNC hired Michael Lombardi as their GM, and they're paying him $1.5 million to general manage the Tar Heels. But Curtis Lofton was on the show a few weeks ago. He resigned as the general manager of Oklahoma football, and they named Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, as his successor, and I think a massive get for this Oklahoma football program.
It really is, and right now, with this new landscape of college athletics, football specifically, we don't really know exactly how big that hire is going to be until we start to see stuff come to fruition, right? But in terms of, one, the name, and two, the experience that he brings from his time at the Senior Bowl, and he's been a scout in the past, and so he's done a lot of things that translate really well to this new era of college athletics, and it's an impressive hire. And for now, OU fans are fired up about it. We'll see what they got to translate it to wins at some point, but for now, especially given where the program's at, I think it's a big step.
I don't know that there's going to be a lot put on his shoulders in year one. Like, if next year's football team doesn't have success, I think that probably falls more on the coaching staff than the GM.
Exactly.
So, Jim Nagy is going to have a certain amount of leash that maybe Brent Venables and the coaching staff doesn't have. I had some conversations on social media yesterday about whether this is a great hire or not, because some people make the point, like, what is a great GM hire in today's college football? Because we really don't know, right? There's not really enough data, because this is brand new for us to say, like, this is what you need in terms of a GM. But I think we can look at Jim Nagy and say that he has all the tools to do this job as the way that we kind of perceive it, right? And you never know what obstacles anyone might be presented with behind the scenes. And that's really, I think, the biggest issue with this job in general. Jim Nagy could be great, and he could be awful. We have no idea. But if he's not allowed to be the GM of Oklahoma football, if he's not allowed to do his job, and I would say this about any college football program, whether it's Alabama, Michigan, anybody, you can't go in a new direction. You can't embrace a new way of doing things while still holding on to the past and still holding on to, well, this is the way we've always done it, right? Coaches in this new era have to be coaches, and the front office, the general manager and his staff, have to be the people responsible for putting a team on the football field. And you can't have, I think, the butting of heads between a coaching staff and a general manager and his group in terms of personnel.
Basically, you can call it front office now. The coaching staff in the front office.
Because he's going to have a front office. That's right.
So, to me, what this hire will do, and I don't know if it will be done well or not. I'm not saying anything like that because I really don't know. But at the very least, what it's going to do is just take a lot of things off of Brent Venables' plate.
I would think so, yes.
You think about not having to deal with contracts anymore with like the NIL case. He'll still have to have a hand in NIL, but you don't have to deal with it as much. You think about not necessarily recruiting in the portal, because he will do that, but we know that Nagy's going to do a great job of evaluating talent in the portal, out of the portal, high school, whatever. He's going to do a good job with that, and that's going to be another resource that Venables can lean on. And ultimately, you said it, let the coaches coach. Ultimately, what that's going to do is allow Venables to just coach his defense, right?
That's right.
That's his job to be the head coach. But his
football.
job right now, too, is to call plays on the defensive side of the ball. And this, again, will alleviate some of that stress from things off the field that he's had to deal with in this new era, and ultimately, hopefully, make him a better coach.
There are a lot of football coaches that prefer the NFL to the college game because it's more about just coaching football, right? And in the college game, a big part of being a coach, whether it's a head coach, a coordinator, or a position coach, is the recruiting element and how much you have to rely on relationships and all that. That's, to me, that should be out the window in this new era of college football. But there's going to be people that have been involved in college football for so long that have relationships that are going to want to, pay those relationships off and bring in their personnel. And that's where I think, not just at Oklahoma, but at all college football programs, you're going to see this sort of tug of war between the football coaching staff and the front office with how this football team is going to be built.
A lot of people are saying it shows what the outside world or perception is of Oklahoma football that you're able to bring in a guy like Jim Nagy.
Right.
And I would agree with that. I also think it says a lot about what Jim Nagy probably wants out of his career. Like, what is his next step? he wasn't going to be with Reese's in the Senior Bowl his whole life, right?
Right.
So, like, what is his next step going to look like? And I think that this is just not necessarily a stepping stone for him, but it's certainly a good start to launch what could be. Maybe he wants to be an NFL GM. So this would be a nice opportunity for him.
He did interview for the Jets GM job earlier this offseason, so he's drawn NFL interest in terms of that exact position. He probably maximized everything he was going to do at the Senior Bowl. I mean, he took it from kind of an afterthought product 6 or 7 years ago to being, one of the premier stops in terms of, actually the starting point is kind of the way they branded it of the draft process. So he's been a great brand ambassador for the Senior Bowl, and I would imagine that's going to be a big part of what he does at Oklahoma as well. That is TJ Eckert. I am Colby Daniels. We'll take a timeout. Matt Burton from 107.7 The Franchise set to join us as we talk basketball next. Welcome back to the End Zone, along with TJ Eckert. I am Colby Daniels. Matt Burton from 107.7 The Franchise joins us for a second time.
Second time,
here on the End Zone.
redemption. It's my
That's
chance
right.
at redemption
Okay.
a little bit later.
Best of
We
luck.
voted you the, I think, worst moving the chains performance
Yeah.
of 2024. So I'm glad that we could extend the opportunity for you to come back and,
Yes.
in the next segment, redeem yourself.
Yeah, that was around Christmas, and I didn't know I was surrounded by some Scrooges, but that's okay. It's fine. We're here to make good on this second chance.
To be clear, you didn't do a bad job. Your answers just weren't good. Like
Okay, well,
if that makes you
think
feel
that-
better.
Yeah,
I think that's the
yeah.
same thing. I think that would be the same thing.
You look good.
Yeah.
You sounded good. Your answers just suck.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
I
Basically,
appreciate
your execution was terrific. Your personality is terrible. Is what
Okay,
TJ
okay,
is
yeah,
saying.
awesome.
Yes.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
Does that sound better?
So
That's
at least
perfect.
professionally speaking,
Yeah.
you were amazing
Yeah,
last
let me down
time.
easy. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you mentioned the term Scrooge. That's a great segue into my first topic of conversation here as we transition to college basketball. There are a lot of Scrooges out there when it comes to court storming in college basketball these days.
yeah.
Earlier this week, Oklahoma State, giant upset over Iowa State at home. I don't think anybody had picked Oklahoma State to get that done. And then, in the aftermath of it, the tens and tens of Cowboy fans that were at Gallagher-Iba Arena run onto the court, and a lot of people, have their opinions about whether or not
Right.
there should be court storming or what should have to take place for court storming to be allowed. So what's your opinion? What are the rules? What are the
Yeah.
Matt Burton rules for court storming in college basketball?
See, as someone, now I'm going to give people a chance to hate me here.
Oh, good.
I'm a Duke fan. I'm a Duke basketball fan.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I know. But
true.
whenever I say this, you're going to know that this comes from a good place. I follow the rules that have always been set. A top 10 win at home.
Okay.
Top 10 AP top 10 win at home, or you beat Duke. Those are the only two times that you storm the court. That's it.
I mean, that's a fair gauge, I think. Yeah, and I don't care how many people are there or how embarrassing
Yeah.
it looks. If you win a top 10 game, storm the court.
Storm the
right?
court.
Yeah,
Storm
it's
the
like
court.
like I know the image doesn't look great because the court's not full, but it's a good amount of people still.
yeah.
That's
you
a
know?
good amount of people.
Right,
So,
so
yeah.
you let the kids have some fun, or adults, I guess, if they ran on the court too. I don't know, but yeah, that's probably my gauge or my whatever I would say, my details I would
Yeah.
need. Top 10, Duke.
Yeah, yeah.
We talked about Kentucky maybe being one too.
I think Kentucky's in that
Kentucky,
category.
A couple
Yeah.
there you could throw
Kentucky
in there, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to my guy Zach Lancaster for giving us his video
Boy, Zach.
of the court storming in Stillwater. I'm with you. Top 10 win at home,
Yep.
especially if you're unranked. Now,
Oh,
if,
yes,
if you
absolutely.
are like
Sure.
number 12 and you're playing number 9,
No.
yeah, probably
gotta-
not. But
you
if you are
expect to win
unranked
those.
Yes.
and you are playing a top 10 team at home, I'm all for it, even if there are 50 people in the crowd. As, quote, pathetic as some people called the court storming in Stillwater, like, you know
Still
what?
have fun. They're college kids.
They're
wanna have
going to
fun.
remember that forever, right? If
Exactly.
you were in the middle of that court storming, you're going to
Absolutely.
remember it forever.
Yeah, agreed. And how many times has Oklahoma State been able to celebrate basketball this season, right? Like,
Very
it's been
true.
it's been an up and down year for Steve Lutz, and so to have a moment like that is cool. So why
Oh,
not?
yeah.
Why not? They all
I'm sure
enjoyed
Steve
it.
Lutz loves it too.
Yeah,
I mean,
why not?
first
Signature
year it's
win,
been-
yeah.
Yeah, he needed
First
that.
year it's been up and down to say the least, and
it.
get a great win against a great Iowa State team.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk Oklahoma basketball. They're kind of on the NCAA tournament bubble. The thing that is saving them is the level of competition from the non-conference through the SEC schedule. 4-11 now in conference play after the heartbreaking loss to Kentucky. But is this team tourney bound?
I do not believe so. I think they just have a lot of work to do. You know, they're sitting at 17-11 now after last night. I think 19 wins is when maybe you can have a discussion about getting into the tournament, but when you look at the rest of the schedule, I mean, Texas at Texas looks like the easiest game, but OU does not have a great record against Texas these past, 5 years. And I don't know if you saw what talented freshman Trey Johnson did last night, 39 points for Texas in an overtime game. So, I mean, yeah, it looks a little bit tougher, especially you'd love to have that one at home. I think the good thing about this one against Kentucky is that it looked competitive. I mean, that was a great college basketball game. TJ, you were there. I mean, just an awesome college basketball game. Whereas, when they went on that 5-game losing streak, they just weren't competitive at all. So we'll see. I think if you get to 19 wins, I think if you get to 20 wins if you're OU, I think you're in no matter what your conference record is.
20 wins would imply winning the final 3, right?
Right.
So you're at Ole Miss, you got Missouri at home, and then Texas on the road to close the regular season.
I think you could end with 19 and then win a game in the conference tournament, and then you give yourself enough of a. People are going to look at the conference record, say, they went, 5 and whatever, or 6 and whatever in conference. But as we've learned, in football, in basketball, sometimes conferences are not created equally.
Well, that and we talked about it on the radio. The bubble's not very good this year.
That's not.
There's been a lot of teams that have been on the bubble that have lost. And, OU's an example of that, losing to Kentucky. But across the country, the bubble's pretty weak this year. And so that the SEC's getting a lot of credit for their conference toughness. OU beat some good teams out of conference, which helps. But you still got to win a couple more down the stretch, and then maybe have a couple in the SEC tournament to feel good.
You have to also because I mean I think especially basketball-wise, it matters at the end.
Yeah.
How do you
Right.
look at the end of the season? Like early on, great wins against Michigan, Louisville. The battle for Atlanta's championship that looks great, but what are you whenever it's March time?
Yeah, agreed.
The good thing is pretty much the entire schedule is quad 1, right?
Right.
But,
Yeah.
to your point, I mean, there's not been a lot of quality wins down the stretch. They all came early. They may get the benefit of the doubt simply because they're in the SEC. I think you pile all the L's up at the end of the year, though. That's a tough draw. But again, unless there are a bunch of bids stolen through conference tournaments, they're probably going to get the benefit of the doubt. All right, let's take a timeout, and it's redemption time for Matt Burton on the other side of the break. Moving the chains next here on the End Zone. And welcome back to the End Zone. Along with TJ Eckert, I'm Colby Daniels. Matt Burton from 107.7 The Franchise is our guest for the second time in this segment. And he is back for redemption as he we had to go to review, if I remember correctly, last time to find out if he got the first down. Luckily, the NFL's doing away with the chains, and we're going to have new technology that will determine first down. So maybe the process will be a little quicker.
Yes.
In the future, if you are leaving it that close. But I'm excited that you're going to get your chance for redemption.
Me too. I've been thinking about this basically since I left last
Sleepless
time.
nights.
So yes, absolutely. This is what keeps me up.
He reminded us, too, during the break. I said, good luck, and he said, I'm not even prepped this time. We sent him the questions
That's
last
true,
time, and he
yes.
still
And it's
struggled.
still-
Now we're off the cuff. We'll see if that's
Well,
any
they
better.
always say you
Let's go.
remember your losses more than your wins.
true.
Exactly.
That's true.
There you go. All right, you are a hooper, right?
Yes,
Like
was.
I have seen Matt play basketball, and he can ball.
I'll put it this
Matt
way.
has some skills.
I say it this way. I was a good high school
Okay.
basketball
Okay.
player.
There's plenty of those.
Nothing
Yeah.
more than that, sometimes less than that. Okay,
But
yes.
Matt can hoop,
still good.
and
Yeah,
at
still
one
good.
time could hoop, and he's been on the basketball floor
Okay.
on occasion.
You're
So
an expert.
I will start with this. I've seen this debated recently. In the game of 21, which you've played, I'm sure.
Yes, of course.
What does the shooter do after missing a shot?
What does the shooter do?
If
after
you shoot and
Yes.
you miss, what do?
I mean, you're on defense.
On the ball, right?
Yeah, you're on defense. You're on the ball. Yeah, if
You have to
shoot,
go guard the
you
ball,
have to-
right?
Yes. If you
Okay.
shoot, if you're on offense, you go immediately to defense.
People debate this
what's
for
the-
some
what's
reason,
the
and
other
I've
debate?
always thought
What's the other side? Like, is there another?
well that you could go stand under
That's
the,
like your
the
penalty for
basket
missing.
and rebound,
No.
or
No.
like
that's like your penalty for missing. That's your penalty. You have
play
to go guard.
defense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like
we
that.
always had the saying, you brick them, you stick them.
Exactly.
Break 'em,
That
stick
was
'em.
that was always our saying. So
Exactly.
Okay, well,
Yes.
to me, there was only one correct answer, and he gave it.
That-
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good
Thank you.
gain. Not going to get the first down yet, just for history's sake. 8 yards. So
Okay, thank you.
good
Yeah.
gain on first down.
That felt like a little.
There we
bit.
go.
Yeah, that was a
There we
layup.
go.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll
Thank
go to
you.
second.
We're go-
That was kind of a layup, though, because there's
It
really
was.
not another answer. But okay. 2nd and 2 here. This is more of a serious question. Give me the guy who has a better chance of returning to OU next year. Is it Porter Moser or Jeremiah Fears?
Porter Moser.
Okay.
Porter Moser. I think anytime you see your name in first round conversations, I don't care if it's baseball, basketball, football, you're probably going. I don't think that there's maybe 1 to 2 programs in basketball specifically that could pay you as much as you're going to get as being a first-round pick in the NBA. I think, seriously, if Porter Moser makes the tournament, they're looking at that buyout. I think that he's back next year.
Okay.
So I think there are a couple scenarios here. He's either going to the NBA, which is the most likely, as some people have projected him to be a lottery pick. You're not passing that up, so you're gone. You come back to college and potentially somebody in college offers you a big payday, like a Kentucky,
Right.
Who took an OU player from last year, or maybe it's a North Carolina or somebody, right? And you go somewhere else, or maybe Porter Moser's not back and you follow him somewhere.
Sure.
Porter Moser, I think, is much more likely to come back next year than Jeremiah Fears, whether that's going to the NBA or transferring or just being in Norman in general. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the first down here.
Yeah.
You've already outdone yourself.
Let's go.
3-yard gain.
Let's
so
go.
you have a chance to get.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got the first down by a full yard. No review needed.
No review.
And you have a chance to maybe get a second first down, or you could still turn the ball over. So you don't want to end this in a negative way.
Don't get excited yet. That's right.
Okay.
Has anyone ever turned it over?
No.
Nobody has.
No. So
No.
Dang it. All right.
could be
Okay, earlier this week was National Pistachio Day.
Okay.
So I want to
Had
know
no
from
idea.
you,
Yeah.
what are your favorite nuts?
Okay. I'm gonna go.
Break down your favorite nuts for us.
Yeah. Let's go cashews.
Okay.
Cashews first.
Okay.
Salted, some salted cashews.
That's a good one.
And then I think that's where the list ends, maybe.
It starts and ends at
Starts and
cashews.
ends with
That's fair.
cashews.
Okay.
Not a big peanuts guy. So,
Not an almond guy.
Almond?
Almonds. Yeah,
Walnuts?
okay. Almonds are okay.
Actually, don't eat walnuts, so I'll have to try that out.
Almonds are okay.
Almonds are
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
Almonds are good. So we'll say no gain because you only gave one answer.
Okay, that's fine.
And we said nuts, plural. So
Right. Yes, you did.
We'll say no gain, but you know what? No. 1 yard because I do like cashews as well. So
Okay,
I'll
thank
be
you.
nice.
Okay. Thank you so
So
much.
1 yard.
Thank you.
How about
Appreciate
that?
it.
You're welcome. Okay. So this would be what, 2nd and 9. So let's go to 2nd and 9 here. February they say is coming to an end. They say it's the shortest month of the year, but also feels like the longest, right?
Right.
It's a miserable month. So I want you to tell me your favorite month of the year, any of them, but then
Okay.
also your least favorite.
Okay.
So what do you got?
Well, I'm not going to say this because I know that you just said you don't like February. My birthday's in February.
Oh.
So I'm not going to say that, though.
Okay.
March is great. March Madness, my favorite
Okay.
time of the year.
Okay.
Least favorite. Oh, my goodness. I'll say January.
Oh, yeah, because you're coming off the new year,
I'll say
Christmas.
January. Probably really cold, too. I'm not a cold weather guy. The only thing good about January is the very, very start. New Year's. And then it's just like, well, okay.
And then from there,
From there,
I would
yes.
agree.
January, you get playoff football though on the weekends, right? Like,
Didn't think about that.
don't
Didn't
we
think about that.
build to that?
But that's
even think about
all
that.
you get, though, to be fair.
January sucks, people, but you get
You-
playoff football on the
that's true.
weekends.
That's true.
No, don't change your
I'm
answer.
not changing it.
Okay,
I'm
all
not
right.
changing it. I was not thinking.
Stand up for your
like,
answer.
I was thinking the sports calendar because I brought up March
That's
Madness.
all that there is, though, to your
But
point.
then I went to like weather. What's
Yeah.
what's nothing really.
the
no really
gloom coming off
holiday
of
going on.
post-Christmas. Yeah,
Right.
I'm with you. I think I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Or
the
February.
holiday is basically December 31st, carrying into the morning of
There you go.
January.
There
You know what? I'm glad that you got the first down in the first set of downs because this was a fumble, but you recovered your fumble.
Okay, all right, okay,
You
all
did
right.
not
There we
turn
go.
the ball
Good
over.
job.
You
Good
got
job.
a first
Live to
down,
fight
and
another
you
day.
live to see
Okay.
another day.
Yes, let's
Matt
go.
Burton gets redemption on this edition of
job,
Moving
Matt.
the Chains, and we're back to wrap up the show next on the End Zone. All right, TJ, as we wrap up the show, Thunder basketball back from the All-Star break. They've got a handful of games in their pocket now as we make this stretch run toward the NBA playoffs. A lot of people freaked out about the big blown lead the other night,
Yeah.
which I will admit was a terrible loss, right?
Very much.
To give up a lead like that.
At home.
They've struggled a little bit with some of their lineups. I will say Mark Daignault, after the Brooklyn win in his postgame, made a comment that I know we've talked about before, but he just said, like, we are putting lineups on the floor to test what we need to test to get ready for the playoffs. It's not necessarily about matching up with other teams. And that's just kind of a philosophy that they've had all year long. So I think in terms of regular season matchups, you have to kind of take it for what it's worth.
You do, and there's the argument, too, that the reason they're able to have this kind of flexibility with their lineups is because they've won so many games to start the season.
That's right.
If you were fighting for a playoff spot, you could not have this flexibility right now. So he's allowed to do it now to prepare for the postseason. And so far it's worked. And, Minnesota aside, they've done a great job of finding lineups that work and stick. And they didn't have Chet that game either, too. And Hartenstein went out with like a bloody nose, too. So, it sucked, like you said.
Yeah.
But I don't put too much stock into it.
There's going to be playoff matchups where you might have to play both bigs. You might not be able to play one big. Who knows?
Yeah.
But at least you're going to be prepared for everything once that time comes around. And again, their depth is such a weapon.
Really good.
I think when you start matching up with other teams instead of focusing on yourself. All right, that's it for us. That's TJ Eckert. I'm Colby Daniels. We're back next week. Have a great weekend. This is The End Zone.